Be here now. Just be here now.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Grosso with the Spiritualist podcast. I am here with my dear heart friends, Alex and Allyson Grey, visionary artists, two of the most transparent, absolutely beautiful human beings I've ever had the pleasure of being with. I intentionally didn't print out your bios because I just wanted to come off the cuff with you today and just be here with you in this moment. So I think we'll speak to your bodies of work. I think a lot of listeners on the Be Here Now network are familiar with both of you, but you're both iconic in so many ways. So I want to thank you both so much for taking the time to be here with me, to do this interview, this conversation, and to share your wisdom with the listeners of Indie Spiritualist podcast on the Be Here Now network. So thank you both.
Thanks so much for having us.
We're so glad to be here today with you, Chris.
I wish people could see this right now. It's such a heart moment, at least for me. I love you two so much. You're such incredible people. And I'll be transparent. The Greys were just kind enough to give me a tour of Entheon, which is a building that you're both exceptionally passionate about, obviously. And I'm still trying to reconcile what I just experienced and got to see with my own eyes. But I wanted to start there. The theme of this conversation is going to be pilgrimage and journey. And I think Entheon is there's no better place to start than that. And I am going to read something that is on the website for readers before we get into the conversation about Entheon. Entheon means a place to discover the creator within. Entheon Sanctuary of Visionary Art at Cosm transforms a 3-story carriage house into a stunning 1,200 square foot exhibition of the finest original works of visionary art, precious paintings, drawing, sculpture, and moving image that resonates with the highest states of consciousness. Inside Entheon, the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors features a cathedral-esque lattice ceiling, 10 archangels, and a quartz crystal moat that surrounds each of the 21 sacred mirrors. And that is just a minor blip of what Entheon is and speaking from what I just witnessed. So if you could speak to Entheon, the vision, the purpose, what led you to create that? And we'll start there.
Well, I could say that in 1971, I read Ram Dass's book, Be Here Now.
Yes.
And it changed my life from, being an active psychedelic experimenter in many different situations and locations, from parties to hiking and biking and things like that, to, taking psychedelics in a conscious way, the way Ram Dass recommended when he spoke of seeing the white light when he took LSD and went into a dark room and had an internal experience. So that changed my life, and I saw secret writing, and it was really the symbol for my God contact, the secret writing. So from then, years went by, and I was looking for the one, right? Finding the one, but I wasn't finding the one until Alex came to my party in 1975. It was my end of year school party, and I was always giving parties, and Alex came and took LSD in my apartment for the first time, and we never left. And that's really where our spiritual journey began together, and has been going on for 46 years. So we're united in an aim to create an enduring sanctuary of visionary art, to build and create, and to uplift a global community. And that's what we've been, heading towards. It's sort of had some is something you want to, why don't you add something to that before I go on?
Well, I loved that you started at the more or less inception of your God contact,
Yes.
basically, which was, we all have to thank Maharaji, I guess, really, because somehow that enabled Ram Dass to be able to be an opening, for the wisdom into the West, and for him to transform from a professor to a guru, to a sage, to someone who could be a spiritual authority and help to guide our unusual kind of spiritual path here in America. It's been such a strange journey. But like Allyson said, my psychedelic rebirth that happened in her apartment really gave us an insight that there was a spiritual reality. And that for me, I have no problem using the name God, because it's not a convention that I'm opposed to. I think I completely questioned the existence of divine intelligence or primordial awareness that was at the heart of everything. But the experience with psychedelics then gives you a vantage point and a perspective which Allyson and I were able to meet at, in 1975, and it seemed like 1 year later we got then blasted with our universal mind lattice experience on acid also, and that took me to a place way beyond what seemed like physical dimensions and anything I had experienced before, and it really then catalyzed the spiritual path seriously for me, because we had experienced the same transpersonal realm at the same time. And if that's possible, what is consciousness, and which is still, the question, basically.
Of course.
And however, there became a lot more interesting vantage points to try to present as an artist, presented by the perspectives given in the beyond within, as we like to say.
Yeah.
And so that meeting in the altered states, I suppose, somehow catalyzed our desire to pictorialize these mystical experiences and feel that there's some value in that. When people come in to the presence of objects that seem to mirror their own internal soul states, then there's a sense of sacred space that's not only within, but it's immersive. And that so many people in the world have seen such similar inner worlds is remarkable. And I don't think there's an understanding of that yet.
The context, right? Yes.
I know, what does that mean? What, but I feel like that's the origin of temples.
Yeah.
That's the origin of people trying to create sacred art, sacred spaces, sacred music. It's like in consort or somehow in relationship with inspiring forces. Sometimes they could be, machine elves. Sometimes they could be, interpreted as spiritual helpers of multiple means,
Right, yeah.
and energies and characteristics. But the contact with those forces and the ability to see the imagination unfold with such seemingly, it's not under your control.
Yeah.
It's not at all under your control. It's your, quote, mind,
Right.
but it's out of control. Out of control means your normal self isn't operating it.
Right.
So the disorientation is with yourself. And that's, I think, the questions that both, send people, on a spiritual path, and for other people, it can leave them, really burnt and unable to process or integrate, depending on their environment, and depending on the consciousness with which they went into these states of consciousness. And so America didn't have a context in the 60s, except for people like Timothy Leary and Ram Dass. They were trying to provide a spiritual context for what was emerging.
Yeah.
People were having spiritual experiences, but they no longer felt comfortable in the church of their parents and things like that.
Right.
And they couldn't talk about these experiences that were direct contact with divine.
Yeah.
You're supposed to read and believe,
Right.
not
experience.
directly
Yeah.
encounter,
Yeah.
And so that matched the Eastern relationship with God.
Yeah.
That was like, no, I don't want to just believe a story told to me thousands of years ago. I want to see it for myself. I want to have an encounter.
Right.
And so that's what Buddha always advised. You gotta do it yourself. And so I think this spiritual contact is the reason that Entheon exists.
And so everything you just said, there's a million ways I can go from what you and Allyson both said. First of all, I want to say you two, to me, are punk rock pioneers. I don't think you would consider yourselves that.
Oh, no.
Would you?
Well, we did come in that,
Okay.
definitely in that era. We were just talking about the mid-'80s, in the East Village.
Yes.
This is where we had the Church of the Little Green Man.
It
wasn't our church, but it was a church.
Yeah.
It was an art church.
An art church. It was
Right.
a performance art church, and it was very, very definitely punk.
And that's what, I look at, to me, Johnny Cash is like my all-time favorite musician. You wouldn't call him punk rock per se, but he was the man in black. And literally, I'm looking around right now, and I know listeners can't see, but we are all in all black.
Well, in New York, we could say, keeping your integrity.
Yes, thank you.
That's what we call it.
That's right. Where to go from here? First of all, I did want to know, and I should have said this earlier, speaking to the gratitude that we all express towards Ram Dass and Maharaji, as I told you before we started the recording, and completely unbeknownst to me until this morning when I woke up, John and I were booking, John, the lovely assistant here helping us, thank you, John Harris, shout out to you, love you, brother. Gotta give John a shout out.
Much love.
Yeah, love you, brother.
John is a brilliant chief operating officer of Cosm and the producer of our broadcast. So I do shout out with some, but also with love, like family.
Yes.
That's
what
what
I know.
feel.
Yeah, I know you guys do. And first time I met John, I think I was wearing a Neurosis t-shirt, and we connected through hardcore and Boston Overcast. Shout out to Overcast. Anyways, to circle back around.
Yeah.
With Maharaji, what I was saying was this morning, social media, whatever it is, I woke up to, there's a thing, Facebook memories. On this day, X amount of years ago, this or that happened. And I saw 3 different pictures, 1 from myself and 2 from people who were here. It was my very first workshop I ever taught here at Cosm, was literally 6 years ago on October 3rd. I did not know that. John didn't know that. It wasn't until this morning, and I didn't tell John until I got here, Wow, so you think of the cosmic order of our journey, Maharaji, the grace, and please.
Master of transcendental timing.
Yes, yeah.
And you can always see him smiling behind the scenes. Yeah, right. Well, of course, all that wouldn't be there unless someone came to see me.
Yes, right.
And got the ball rolling, got Hanuman into a place that could, America could feel the blessings.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank goodness that they brought that over. And in the LSD form, Maharaji said in that time, like, we were a materialistic society, which we still are. We needed to see the face of God in this way. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And it opened up so many doors. So speaking of opening doors, coming back to the theme of pilgrimage and journeys, the last room that I saw in Entheon, the sacred mirrors, my goodness, where as we were walking out, Alex, you kind of set me aside to see that one mirror with the light shining back. My God, I have to hold some tears back right now because that was absolutely beautiful. In that moment, it was kind of like forever came crashing, like this entire pilgrimage up to that moment in that spot in, half hour ago, however long it was, led me to that. So to circle back around to pilgrimage, I'm very curious what you both think about what does like a definition of pilgrimage mean to you? And I want to be clear, I'm not saying necessarily like about changing locations. It could be a journey of the mind, a journey of artistic creation, just if you can talk about that, the pilgrimage of the human experience, what that means to you, what your experiences directly have been with that.
We've traveled to pilgrimage sites in the, since we've had the vision of creating one, really. Creating a temple means creating a place where people would come for spiritual fulfillment or for their spiritual, uplifting. Renewal, exactly. Yeah. So we started to visit many spiritual sites and learn so much about the people who created them. How did this happen? And, when we went to Chartres Cathedral with 150 people, we walked the labyrinth of Chartres at midnight with Gregorian chanting and, and carrying candles, in silence. And I'm telling you, a labyrinth walk in silence, that's what we recommend. It's such inner work. It's such a spiritual experience of your mind, of listening to yourself as you're walking this labyrinth. I never really understood that until I did it there, and with those people, it was very, very amazing. And it was built by people who had a relic. Basically, they had a very special relic. The relic that they had, this is right outside of Paris. They had somehow obtained 1,000 years ago the garment that Mary wore when she birthed Jesus. And that was a very special relic. It was a second-class relic because it was a garment. And a garment is a second-class relic. A first-class relic is human remains, human material. And a third-class relic is the signature of a person. So anyway, but they had this incredible relic all that time ago, and they needed to build one of the first, I think it was the original, considered the original cathedral of the European cathedral movement. And it's incredible. Everybody should go see it. And we've been pilgrims, to various sacred sites, many sacred sites. Everywhere we'd go, if it was like in the Ozarks, down in Arkansas, we would make a side trip to go see the Thorn Crown Chapel, which is an amazing chapel to visit. So, and then outside of Chicago is the number one and only North American Mother Church of the Baha'i, right outside of Chicago. So in every continent there is a Baha'i church, and each one has a unique architectural and contemporary look and feel. The Baha'i people are so principled that one of their precepts, one of their 9 precepts, is to consort with people of other faiths. That is so broad-minded and open-minded, and that's really where we are in creating COSM. It's radically welcoming, trans-denominational, interfaith art church. That's what we wanted to make it be, a church of creators, because our mission is to build an enduring sanctuary of visionary art. So we wanted to make sure that we were, like identifying and cultivating the artisans and the artists that would create a temple of spiritual art. And so we continue to make every effort to attract such people as like you, creative people, that in all sorts of ways. I mean, John is a very creative person in his own way. Yeah. And so we all have our various, ministerial creativity. We think of it as ministerial because it's kind of like the outreach of love and helping and serving and spiritual. And that's kind of where that sound cloud comes in, right?
Mm-hmm. I think that when I think of pilgrimage, not only do I think of all these amazing places that we have had the tremendous good fortune to, usually we were the kind of bait on a journey that we wanted to go on, but they would pay our way, and give us a little, that we could come back to Cosm with and say, look, we brought home some bacon, but we got to go to the pyramids. We got to go to lay down in the king's chamber. We got to
onion domes in Moscow. They used to be sacred. Now it's a national site, but they happen to have the Gregorian chanters there when we were there.
Well, it was So we've had the tremendous good fortune to Borobudur, which is an amazing Buddhist temple in the middle of a jungle in Java, and you make your way up these temples. And many of them are built on the principle of a mountain, that because the mountain is the high place, that we all associate, the highest place in a sense. And this is why Mount Kailash, of course, is so important, It's Shiva's dwelling place. It's sacred to the Buddhists and things. The mountains themselves are pilgrimage places. It doesn't even need a temple, But the sacred sites are often built, or temples are built around sacred geographic energy points, And it's very interesting. Usually these great structures, even like Chartres, they're built in relation to a geological kind of energetic force. In their case, there's an underground well that has a, I guess, aquifer or some kind of active water movement. That activates the entire space around there.
I wanted to say,
they even have a well in Chartres. And the well itself is dug underneath the labyrinth. So your sense of, you're walking on the surface on the labyrinth, but there is a sense of depth underneath you. And you're right in the apse kind of thing, where there is a space that draws you out above. So
I wanted you to talk about the Sphinx next.
Okay, you are at the vertical. And it, even though you're walking the labyrinth, it's pulling you in that vertical dimension as well, just architecturally. And so it's amazing kind of force. Well, then...
it's the orientation of the Sphinx is what I was thinking.
Yes, well, toward the east, I believe, and that's why when we were there on the equinox, it was coming up right between the paws of the Sphinx, the sunrise. And so we had the good fortune also of going with a group to Egypt and things. And so the
at the sunrise of the winter solstice. We were there. Was it the spring equinox?
Vernal.
The vernal equinox. We were there in the paws of the Sphinx. At the crack of dawn. You have to get up at 3:00 in the morning to go there to do that. But it's like the whole group. We all did that on pilgrimage.
Astonishing.
Each time, if it's a pilgrimage, you'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go and stand in the paws of the Sphinx and see the sunrise right before your face. It's really astonishing. Of course, there's many places that are oriented towards the calendar.
Yeah.
The Stonehenge and like that. But anyway, to do a pilgrimage, let's go back to the experience of a pilgrimage.
It's why we elected to make a more interfaith or interdenominational orientation rather than confine the sacred to one kind of brand.
Right.
And that if anything, art is the brand, and that's no brand at all, because art can be anything.
Right.
And the thing that we were seeing, I think, we had that vision, and the sacred mirrors, which we had just sold, belonged in a temple we could see, from this vision. And so we couldn't sell the sacred mirrors. Somehow we had to make a temple. That was all we knew. And so we learned along the way, we got, it takes a community to do that. Yeah. That's not something isolated individuals do. So that was the challenge God had put, before us was, you will soon find that you need to make some friends, and you need to see if you can come together about anything.
Right.
And so a lot of people still can come around creativity and even come to the point that it's a spiritual thing, because they can see that soul or something hasn't necessarily been co-opted by something else.
Yep.
And that they're speaking authentically, and they're speaking a truth that may even resonate with them. Right. And so since there are those individuals, I think of it as like the voice, the small, still voice of conscience that we hear in ourselves, and that the artist, in a shrill media scape, the individual artist kind of stands for that kind of voice of conscience. And and quite often they're the canaries in the cage that are feeling the moment that will be the current moment, a few years beforehand. It just happens. You see it in artists of all kinds.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we trust the creative arts to some degree, to supply occasionally an authentic shard of the soul and of the current moment, of the complex, crazy moment.
Yeah.
And so since it has continued to supply that time and time again, that's why I think we seem to have at least some faith in that. And so as a force, as a creative force and a creative spirit, I can see that going through all the traditions, every tradition.
Yeah, sure.
That's the vital force going through all the traditions. The creative force always was, always is. And so since it's present in all those, it's present now. It's always present. That's all that the teachers will tell you. It's present now.
Yeah.
Get into it. It's you. It's the basis. God gave you, a microcosm of the macrocosmic consciousness, in a mortal skin. Yeah. And it's got only a limited time. You got you got a limited time to pilgrimage to your soul.
Yeah.
And that's what the path of liberation points to. It says there is a destination. There is a pilgrimage point. One day you're going to wake up. And maybe it's going to take walking around all these different places on Earth. Maybe it's going to take, logging onto a website and having something resonate, And so I think that people will find a way to connect with their soul. And it's what psychedelics were for us.
Yeah.
And it tapped us into a world of spirituality.
For sure. Well,
Yeah.
so in the interim of you not being open and speaking to nature mysticism, you still are doing your art churches every weekend, or once a month, excuse me.
Yeah.
We do full moons and art church. We have full moon, we call them ceremonies. They're really like a spiritual variety show with music, poetry, wisdom.
Right.
And now, because of we're doing broadcasting, we're broadcasting our full moons. We haven't missed a full moon in, I think, what are we up to, John? 235, 234, something like that. We're consecutive in an unbroken chain of full moon ceremonies. So, but when COVID hit, after the vernal equinox, we broadcasted for the first time in March of 2020, and we've been broadcasting ever since and been closed. While we finished the job of Entheon, it was very difficult to continue working on Entheon and work as much as we could when we were having so many events all the time and workshops, and we want to be doing that again. But the full moons, and then we have art churches for members on the new moon. So if you're a member of COSM, we Zoom our art church in the room with members. We make art together and talk about it on a theme. And the theme, like you say, is nature mysticism. But we have every month has a different theme. So we welcome people to join COSM because the members are a stand for the future of COSM.
Right.
A church, the reason why we became a church is because it's an institution that an institution that people can pass on to another generation of people who love it.
Yep.
It's basically, run by, the people who love it. And so we're cultivating and identifying people who can love it and can continue it. And as we, kind of go the way of Ram Dass out of the picture, but hopefully, Entheon will be here and COSM will be here to serve a beautiful global community that's flourishing, really growing, isn't it, Chris?
It is, and what a gift. COVID has brought so much heartbreak to so many people, but in another light, you take COSM, for example, and you've been able to reach out now that you're doing more online and connect with a broader community. Not that you didn't already have a broad community, but even more people are getting access to this.
Total. We have so many friends in the art church, which is extraordinary. We could get we have maybe, a room full of people here and it would be pretty full. But now we have people coming from Australia and Guatemala and the West Coast and, and South and Central America. And it's really incredible. I mean, to be able to touch last year over 19 million people, were able to come to a full moon.
Yeah.
But the full moons also include these incredible curations of videos of such a broad range of abilities of talent, dance and animation and fractalizing and all kinds of things that people are creating that you can get on screen, and they come from all over the world. So it's way more inclusive, and COVID gifted us that, I have to say. It gifted us that
challenge.
That challenge.
To be able to connect with our members and with our community and discover that there are more people who we can connect with in that way too, and and share the joy of building sacred space together. Yeah. It's really one of those strange things, an art project that people can do together, is build a sacred space.
Yes.
And it's been the way that a lot of traditions have continued to, recreate themselves.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Broadcasting was something that we wanted to do for a long time. We saw others doing it, like Ram Dass and other people having broadcasts, and we really just didn't have the space or time since we were doing so many events. We had so many people coming and so much to manage that we really didn't have a chance to really implement it until everything came to a grinding halt. Right, and it just really catapulted us into this other ability that we cultivated, and we really appreciate the people who've been following that, because we started with not knowing how to,
Right.
and we're getting better. I think they're getting better all the time.
And it's a like I said, it's a gift through so much darkness. There is also light happening, and
That's right.
energetic transmissions are to me palpable. You mentioned Ram Dass. The first time I had an interaction with him was through Skype, and I remember, my heart was buzzing. Like I could feel that heart transmission even through the computer.
Yeah.
So when I got here today to Cosm, like this. I consider this one of my homes away from home. And I took a picture out front and just posted like home away from home. And stepping foot on this property is so sacred and grounding to me. But knowing that energetic transmission is palpable, like people in Australia, like you mentioned, or France or wherever, Russia, doesn't matter. You can log in to a full moon ceremony and experience that transmission in another part of the world. Like, what a gift.
And we do. I mean,
Yeah.
I have had a blog for, that I've been writing, Ask Allyson About Art and
Yes,
Life for
right.
decades.
Yes,
And, I meet one-on-one with people.
Yeah.
And it's just a joy to not have to come all the way here and whatever. You can
Right.
still have somebody, if you want to talk to somebody and you really need to talk about art and life. I'm delighted to be more interactive with a broader range of people. We're not always going to, Alex and I are getting older. We're not always going to be able to be everywhere. We were
Right.
just nonstop travel
Sure.
for like 15 years. And it was so great, to touch people and reach people in all these different places. And we'll be back out there again. COVID will end and we'll all be together in one way or another. But it's great to be able to reach out that personally.
Yeah. So one of trying to look at the light side of darker things. So blessings. And I know for Love Serve Remember Foundation, it's had its gifts as well as reaching out to people. And so, but I get to be here with you guys today and have this conversation. And what a gift that life is in its own way starting in some weirdness to make some semblance of sense. But that said, I know we're starting to run short on time. One thing
it's okay. You can edit us anywhere you want to.
I don't want to edit anything.
Oh, no, really?
I love all your wisdom. Something we started to talk about a little bit while we were in Entheon was you were reading, Alex, a wonderful quote from Albert Hoffman when it comes to the nature of psychedelics. And to me, it took heart, especially in reference to recovery from drugs and alcohol. I had interviewed about 10 years ago Father Thomas Keating, a beautiful, Christian mystic who has since passed. And I remember telling him that I was in recovery from drugs and alcohol, and he kind of chuckled a gentle way, and he's like, well, I'm in recovery too. And I remember thinking, oh shit, I didn't know Father Keating had a habit. But he went on to say, I'm in recovery from the varying conditions to which all humans suffer. And as you were reading that, and I wish I had to hear the Albert Hoffman quote, which I will find it and we'll post it on the website.
That's such a great idea.
So beautiful.
It's like the psychedelic prayer in a way.
Yes, absolutely.
By a master.
Yeah. It's so well articulated, things I have tried to convey to people, because within the specific recovery 12-step communities, things like plant medicines, have such a stigma still. It's getting better, but there's a stigma. And I've been an advocate myself for years, since my first book came out, about the benefits they could have before I even embarked on them, because I had seen them change lives. I had seen ayahuasca bring people back from the brink of suicide. That said, I've also heard from people, families in the Love Serve Remember Fellowship, that their last resort was like a journey of ayahuasca, this or that, and it didn't work for them. So I want to be clear that it is case by case. However, for me at least, and even statistically, Johns Hopkins and Columbia University doing amazing studies, I would love to hear, and I always try on my podcast to speak from direct experience, because that's all I can share is direct experience. So in your experience with these journeys, I would love to hear, or at least what what you've seen in many years of having, these experiences, and the way you've seen them benefit just humans in general, going back to Father Keating, the way that we're all suffering as a humanity. Like the benefits that plant medicines can have for people. I know that was a big question.
The benefits that plant medicines can have for people.
Yes.
Well, as Hoffman remarked in that great quote, the classic psychedelics are neither toxic nor addictive. And so his idea was that we had to consider them more like indigenous people have considered the sacraments, plant medicines, plant teachers, you know. And so with respect and sacredness around those substances, then we start to differentiate it from a kind of substance that could do us great harm. And we understand what kind of harms it can do and things. And so you also have to see that the psychedelics, like you were pointing out, are not an answer for everyone.
Right.
And for some people, they should not be even used without real careful kind of supervision, or maybe not advisable at all, actually.
Right.
So there's a spectrum of people who could be helped.
Yeah.
And some that should avoid it,
Sure,
you know.
yeah.
However, we have to say, whenever we're talking about psychedelics, we're not talking about something out there. We're talking about something in our brains. We have the most potent psychedelics already operating within our brain now. You know, not like on Saturday night.
Right.
And so DMT, 5-MeO, all of these things that are circulating in us as normal neurotransmitters doing what they're doing are enabling us to imagine reality, such as it is. Bloink with it with a little additional, and you get to see the plasticity of reality. And we're normally locked in. We're locked in the bell jar of our reality. These open a portal, you know, and allow you to see perhaps you weren't letting God in. It was getting dark in there.
Yeah.
Really, really hard, really fucked up. And there was no God.
Yeah.
But as we know, God is always there. And it's just that our mind has created obscurations to seeing your already enlightened presence. So for a brief, I don't know whether you're smoking DMT or whether you're 5-MeO, or, you know, in 10 minutes, you will have a big question about the nature of reality after that experience. And I have learned that even these small doses of DMT are neurogenerative. So I think that what we're looking for when we're thinking that, will I get smarter if I take psychedelics? Well, would more neurons help? Probably. Are you going to try to make new connections and creative ideas? Perhaps new neural pathways that had never been there previously could give you access to that. And it also is building toward where you're intending. So people who have huge problems to solve, like climate change, and other things that need technical even renovations and innovations, may become more accessible the less stigmatized psychedelics are. Kary Mullis, you know, winner of the Nobel Prize and stuff, he's often said that it was the psychedelics that gave him the insight, so that the PCR The PCR tests that we're all using for our COVID things, thanks very much to Carrie Mullis, who on acid got the insight that enabled him to create that technology. And so many of the breakthroughs in technology, as Steve Jobs would say himself, were due to these altered states and these openings to a new possibility.
Yeah.
And we need it now. We need for people to be able to imagine new ways of surviving and thriving in environments that are changing every day. Yeah. So thank goodness the psychedelic revolution is right on target and is within a couple of years, there will be prescription, psychedelic sessions that will be possible for people. Now, ketamine for depression and things like that is helping a number of people. Yes. Cannabis is on a roll, and is helping people all over the United States. And I think that the United States just ought to get off it and stop the war on drugs, which is a racist war, and just see the benefit, start to examine these substances, which are really an important part of our nervous system and may calm down the monkeys. Calm us down, get us more peaceable with each other. Let us listen to each other, heart to heart and soul to soul. Let us imagine some new kind of connectedness where we can once again imagine unity. Imagine a united world intending to live for the benefit of everyone. And these kinds of ideals are natural. They were right there at the Eleusinian mysteries. The true, the good, the beautiful.
Yes.
What was that secret ingredient? It was a psychedelic that was at the heart of the Eleusinian mysteries. What was at the heart of, and the foundations of Hinduism even? Right. Soma. Soma is talked about in the Rig Veda. Yes. So we have at the basis of, and go to Mesoamerica, Central America, you'll find psychedelics at the foundation of civilization. We're returning to something that should be the birthright of humanity. And so I'm grateful for their reemergence in a much more sensible and intellectually thought out context where if you want to take them to heal, there are ways of finding out how to do that.
Yes.
And please consider them sacred.
Yeah.
And don't go there otherwise.
Yeah. Sacred's a key word, and I think medicine or medicinal is also very important.
They are a non-specific amplifier of whatever's already there, too.
Yes.
So when you feel that it's amplifying something negative, then you have to, that's a pitfall. And you can, just watch out for it, that's all. And don't let that happen. Basically, let it amplify the best in you and relieve yourself. But it does point out, possibilities for change because it changes your mind.
Yes.
So there's possibilities for change, and sometimes you encounter them in your psychedelic experience. It's not all, just happiness and light. No. Sometimes it's terror and confronting.
Yeah.
And that's what's frightening to people, but it doesn't kill you.
Right.
It makes you aware of yourself.
Yeah.
So I think very beneficial in that regard.
You have to confront the problem that is at the heart of the addiction. And I think that was the soul renewing discovery that they found, that people who had a mystical experience, and in a mystical experience, I would say, you temporarily you lose your ego identity.
Sure.
And your identity becomes merged with the infinite,
Yep.
with a divine something that always is, a transcendent thing. And then you come back from that. And you remember that you were not your limited skin bag self.
Right.
You're ultimately, and on a level of reality that's even greater than the one that, we're hanging out and speaking in, you're that.
Yes.
You're the God stuff.
Tattwamasi. Yep. Absolutely. That makes me think of Alan Watts when he said, sometimes to come to your senses, you have to go out of your mind. Thank you for your wisdom, Mr. Watts, as always.
Oh, yeah.
High wattage.
Yes. So I think we have time for one more question.
Great.
Out of a million, I would just curious, how would each of you like for your work to be remembered? I mean, you're both such iconic artists, and you've put out so much important work in the world, and you continue to. I'm just curious, how would each of you like for your work to be remembered, or to be carried on, or to be embodied? When all is said and done.
My work is represented by two bodies of work, really, two bodies of art. One are my paintings, which are watercolors and acrylics and oil paintings. And I'd like them to be remembered, in the essentialized worldview of chaos, order, and secret writing.
Yeah.
That chaos is my symbol for the material world, which is beautifully falling apart in this spectral manner that's made up of cells and systems and particles and waves, and has this sort of, and I paint these frozen moments of this infinitely roiling and moving fabric of all reality that's tangible and that can be seen. And then there's order, which is the bliss realm, the realm of bliss, where we go and we're on our highest consciousness. In our journeys, I've experienced the fountains and drains, the vast vistas of interconnected light in these toroidal balls. And, and I represent that in a symbol that I call order. And then there's secret writing, which is the window between. Right. It's a window between the inner world and the outer making of things. We have a thought, and in our minds, it's a vision, and then we have to think, what brush am I going to use, and what alizarin or cadmium, and we have to pick flat ferruled and watercolor oils, sculpture, collage. How am I going to represent this out in the world? It's vision in here. So the symbols that come out, are windows where our inner world becomes outer things. So chaos, order, and secret writing is the essentialized worldview of my art in my painting. But the other body of work that I do and that I have devoted myself to and will for the rest of my life is my social sculpture that I collaborate with Alex, called Cosm, Chapel of Sacred Mirrors. We've created an enduring sanctuary of visionary art. And it's a word, social sculpture is a word termed by Joseph Beuys, who started the Green Party and was a eco-artist in Germany, very influential in the real art world. And he meant it to be art that intends to transform social systems, so that social systems could transform within this art. And so I think that that's what Cosm is for us. It's a work of community, collaborative art that is ongoing, where we co-create with our community works of beauty, creativity, performance, in every field of art, together, and transform social systems. So that's the way I want my work to be remembered.
How beautiful, Allyson. Wow.
Thank you.
Having experienced your work from a firsthand experience, both visually and being humbled and honored to be part of your full moon ceremonies and be there with you. It's some palpable heart stuff. So thank you for your work. It's so appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. And Alex.
And gee whiz. Well, I think that people probably, I feel really lucky that people have associated some of the most meaningful experiences that they've had on psychedelics with my art.
Yeah.
And they may not have seen the art when they were on psychedelics or before even, but they recognize something in it that they either saw meditating or when they were having a psychedelic journey or some kind of meaningful spiritual moment that they connected with my work.
Yeah.
And so those openings, the spiritual openings for people and the openings to the spirit, to the visionary realities, you know, because I think that's one of the most exciting things about being alive. I had no idea before taking acid that I could see a torrent of imagination, you know, before my eyes that wasn't like a movie or a TV, you know, program or you know, some drama unfolding in my living room, you know, but that it was unfolding in my soul. And that God had given us this amazing gift of vision and the divine imagination with which we're creating the reality we create. Yeah. And so I think that the visionary tradition, you know, it's, you know, Blake struggled and died very poor but was adamantly connected to his own idiosyncratic personal spirituality and the desire to share it and to try to articulate it as clearly as he could. And so I feel very much that we're in the same kind of flow. It's not that new. You know, artists have been doing this forever. And I think that temple builders have been trying to build sacred space around the visionary experience, as we've seen the gods appearing in all of these old temples and things like this. Wow, a lot of them were tripping.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder now that we see these things and they say, okay, that explains a little bit more. They were connected with a world of the imagination, not mistaking it for reality, but they could see that they could bring that world closer.
Yeah.
That I may dwell among ye, you know, basically, you know, that you build a sacred space and not only the people to whom it is meaningful will come, but the spiritual forces that we see expressed there are here as well. And so in pilgrimage, we come to that meeting point where we go to this far place and discover ourselves at home, like you were saying. Yeah. We felt that immediately when we came to this property. We felt at home. You know, it's not been an easy thing for me to find that in my life, and I've never exactly been able to say, well, yes, here, you know, and here, you know, but here, yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad for that we found it. 15 years of searching all over the world, actually.
No kidding.
You know, and so it was a while. And we found it on a website.
Wow.
Findthedivine.com.
On Earth Day.
Retreat centers for sale. On Earth Day. Now, Come on.
Well,
It's
these
like,
are all good omens.
Again, the synchronicities of life. My goodness. Selfishly, thank you for finding this spot. It's not that far from me, so I can have a couple hours and come
we'll
here
see
and
more of
have
you.
this conversation in person. It's like I said, such a sacred space. And I know it's the culmination of a lot of people's work that have come together here, but you two are at the helm of that. And so on behalf of, I'm sure, countless people, I thank you for the work you're both putting into the world and your heart mission and just trying to make this fucked up, weird place a little bit more compassionate and kind and understanding. And we need so much more of that. So you have been two incredible pioneers that I personally, and again, I'm speaking for many people, I'm sure, look up to. I love you both dearly. And
We're
can't thank you
pilgrims.
enough.
We're all walking each other home, right?
Right?
All right.
And what better way to end than that? Alex and Allyson, thank you. Actually, I do want to say before we go, websites will be linked, but to find COSM, the website.
COSM.org, and there's Allyson at COSM.org and Alex at COSM.org. You can find us. We welcome you to talk to us.
Oh yeah, and please do talk to them. The two of the most beautiful people I've ever met. And yes, we'll have links. If you're on the Be Here Now website, please just scroll down, click on the link, contribute to COSM, contribute to Entheon. Come visit. I don't care if you're in New England or not. Make a pilgrimage here. It's so worth it. Be a member. It's gonna, be a member. Hopefully next year we'll see Entheon opening. And,
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
So please put it on your calendars next year to come visit. See Alex and Allyson. You will not be sorry you did. So, anyways, thank you both so much for your time and just you in the world. Love you both.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.